their applause, first to welcome him and then to appreciate what he had to say. It was quite remarkable, quite historic. It was an honor to be there to see him. But the purpose of the visit was tragic and heartbreaking. Later that morning, I had a meeting with the G7 heads of parliament. It was presided over by Germany, which heads up the G7 at this time. And
because in the process, Joe Biden already said that he scored an early political point this month in his fight with Republicans over taxes, spending, and raising the Fed debt limit. He confirmed with Republican leaders that they would not seek cuts to Social Security and Medicare. In the process, Biden has already effectively steered the debate around fiscal responsibility, away from two cherished safety net programs for the seniors, just as those plans are poised for a decade of rapid spending growth. New forecasts from the nonpartisan CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, released this week showed that Medicare, Social Security spending growth rapidly outpaced the growth in Fed taxes over the next 10 years. Now, this is the product of a wave of baby boomers reaching retirement age and beginning to tap the programs, which provide guaranteed income and health insurance from the time benefits that they claim. Now, in refusing to touch these so-called entitlement programs, Biden was appealing to seniors, along with the future generations, the future retirees, and the people. Because in this refusing to touch these so-called entitlement programs, Biden was appealing to seniors. And he even said that they're more than government programs. They are a promise we made. Work hard and contribute. And when the time comes for you to retire, money will be there to help you out. Because influential Republicans have proposed a variety of changes to make both programs more fiscally sustainable, including spending cuts, gradually raising the retirement age from 67 to keep up with long life expectancy. And Republican leaders in Congress have stressed in recent days that, despite the calls from conservative, they will not seek these charges as part of an agreement to raise the nation's borrowing cap. Turn on the AC, Jasmine! Because the House Republicans, everybody, like Mitch McConnell, have told reporters that there is no agenda on the part of Senate Republicans to revisit Medicare or Social Security, period, adding that he has noticed that the Speaker of the House has said the same thing. Now, if both sides hold their positions firm, that is, the fiscal debate will begin tomorrow. And now Biden plans to address the deficit in future events, in which he will criticize the Republican proposals that he says add a lot of debt to the nation, a lot of debt that people just can't handle, a lot of debt that people shouldn't be handling. Plus, the debate excludes primary spending side drivers of future federal debt, and both security, Medicare trust funds are currently spending more than they take in payroll from taxes and other revenue sources, a growing gap that is included in how the government accounts for the total size of its budget deficit. The budget deficit has already predicted Social Security will grow by 2/3 over the coming decade. It's more than double the expected growth rate for spending on the military and on domestic programs like EPA, environmental protection agencies, and high inflation and high education. That's pretty much what it is about. Because so far we know that this thing is actually true. The high inflation has accelerated growth. Social Security enacted an 8.7% cost of increase, the largest in the past decade. And so with that being said, probably it's a good idea for stimulus to be sent out.
Just wanted to start.
Very important news is here, everybody. Millions of Americans are expected to receive a $500 one-time crisis relief payment stimulus check by September. These new checks can be automatically deposited. Here's some good news on this. Colorado and your state, people are set to receive a stimulus check of $500. If tax returns are filed after June 30th but before October 17th, then people in Colorado will receive the check in cash in January. Now, individual taxpayers will pocket about $500, while joint filers will get a $1,000 payment. The governor said, "We are helping people in Colorado deal with inflation by getting people back their hard-earned money this summer. We are providing immediate relief for hardworking people in the state." Inflation rocketed to 8.6% in May, its highest level since December. The payments are being introduced as part of the Senate bill, legislation that refunds up to 85% of excess state revenue. Hundreds of thousands of Americans will also get a check in the mailbox. The state of Maine is sending up to 200,000 payments each week under its tax rebate program until everybody gets a check. To qualify for a rebate check in the state, you must meet a few requirements. As far as income goes, as individuals must not exceed $100,000, while heads of the household and couples can make up to $150,000 and $200,000 respectively. These will be based on 2021 tax returns, which must be filed by October 31st. Also, you must not be claimed as a dependent under the tax return to qualify for the rebate. The Department of Administrative Financial Affairs told reporters that it is processing checks at the peak capacity of 200,000 checks per week. There is no specific order by which the payments are going out. And consumer sentiment has hit a record low in June as Americans continue to face elevated gas prices for gas, food, and other services. Inflation, which last increased at the fastest pace in more than 40 years as of May, remained a pressing concern and a key contributor to the further erosion in sentiment. Last week, a conference board survey found that 60% of CEOs said they expect a recession before the end of 2023. Economic teams at the Wall Street firms from Goldman Sachs to Citigroup have also raised their expectation over the risk of a recession over the next year.
Recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Buchanan, to inquire.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I want to thank you for your service. You and I just talked briefly a few minutes ago, but my passion is really to look at the big picture in terms of debt and deficits. If you look over the last 15 years, everybody talks about reducing the deficits, and that we've ran up almost $20 trillion in debt in the last 15 years or so. So what can we do about that? But also, I want to how does that tie in your opinion, to inflation? The last 4 or 5 years, or the last couple of years, we ran into $4 or $5 trillion of additional spending. They like to spend another $2 trillion, but everybody feels in our area that it's impacting inflation in a big year, and it's killing a lot. I'm in Florida, so a lot of our seniors count on a slight raise here and there, and this deficit is really hurting them badly. So what's your thought between spending and inflation? It seems like there's a connection.
Well, so spending has come down. Government spending and the deficit have come down dramatically. We had a substantial response to the pandemic, which was appropriate. It succeeded in getting our economy back to full employment and mitigating a great deal of harm in that way. I think it was very successful. But there's no question that inflation is unacceptably high and we need to get it down. And it's partly a matter of demand and supply. And the Federal Reserve has a primary responsibility.
Madam Secretary, we're just short on time. Let me ask you just quickly, in terms of interest rates rising, it's impacting a lot of people. In the 70s, we had inflation. We used that as I think our major tool to try to tap down inflation. But as you raise interest now, 50 basis points or 100 basis, you're probably talking $300 billion in additional taxes. It doesn't seem like we can continue to raise rates because of the massive deficits and the debt that we have. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, interest rates at the beginning of the pandemic were exceptionally low to try to help the economy recover. And that resulted in really a negative burden of the debt on the U.S. economy. I think the most important measure of the burden of the debt on the U.S. is the real net interest that we have to